Radical judges have declared war on America, and the David Horowitz Freedom Center is fighting back. This is not just a legal battle. It's a war to decide if we are a nation of laws and elections or a nation of unelected judges corruptly imposing their will on the people. That's why we are announcing the Judicial Accountability Project. The Judicial Accountability Project will investigate, expose, and build dossiers on the worst federal judges, on their abuses, their corruption, their conflicts of interest, with one mission: justice. Real justice.
Hi, I'm Louis Gohmert, former congressman, senior fellow now with the David Horowitz Freedom Center. In 2006, David Horowitz, as a former communist, converted to a leading advocate for the wonderful, greatest nation in the world, the United States of America. He did a book profiling 101 of Americans' most liberal professors. And he called out names, named names, and identified some of the worst professors in America as he saw them. He did America a real favor. He continued to point out problems in America, and having been a communist, he knew where the problems were and was a leading advocate in trying to protect America from the problems that he saw attacking our freedom. We lost David this year, but in recent years, David and I discussed another major problem plaguing our republic, and that is judges and justices legislating from the bench, and ones that were truly creating a constitutional crisis in America. After David's passing this year, some of the brilliant minds that he had gathered to work within the David Horowitz Freedom Center had felt that it would be a true part of David's legacy to have a Judicial Accountability Project along the lines of his pointing out the problems with our universities before most people realized there was a problem, and dealing directly with the problems with our courts. People know there are problems with our courts, but this accountability project would be our Freedom Center gathering information, dossiers, if you will, but basically profiles on judges who are abusing their office. They are legislating from the bench. They are not recusing themselves when they should. They are engaging in bad behavior from the bench. And then we would need the American public to examine the information and hold them accountable by making sure their members of Congress heard from them. They will only respond if they know Congress is going to hold them accountable. Now, the Constitution, when it talks about impeachment for executives, you've heard the terms treason, high crimes and misdemeanors, but when it talks about judges, it says they shall serve during their good behavior. It doesn't say that about executives. It says it's about judges. And so that is what judges should be held to, good behavior. And if they're not acting within their good behavior, their bad behavior is what they're engaging in, then they should be removed. They should be impeached. But certainly subpoenaed and brought in question about whether or not they're engaging in bad behavior. And look, the Supreme Court makes rules, they have ethics standards, but the courts, inferior district courts, courts of appeals, bankruptcy court, all these courts, they're all created by Congress. And as my constitutional law professor said, Congress brought them into the world. Congress can take them out of the world. They can set their jurisdiction. They can change jurisdiction. They can say what they get to consider, what they can't. That's all up to Congress. Congress has that power, and they should be using it, and they haven't been. So these dossiers will be put out to the public by the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and you consider it. please, when you see that they've legislated from the bench, that they've usurped executive branch power as if they were the president, for example, or they disregard their own biases and prejudices and disregard the law that requires them to recuse themselves if there's any question about their potential bias or prejudice, then you should notify your members of Congress to have hearings and subpoena these people and bring them in and hold them accountable. Look, the scholars at David Horowitz Freedom Center will have this material. They will provide it. You just need to do your part and review it and notify your members of Congress. I left the bench to run for Congress so I could legitimately and constitutionally legislate. So no one is more infuriated than I am when these judges just disregard the Constitution and legislate or use executive functions from the bench. So we need to work together to make the Constitution work. If you don't do your part, if you don't raise Cain with your Congress members and make sure they do their job, not just have hearings and get sound bites and say, look, we had a hearing. That's not good enough. They've got to hold people accountable. And you will have done your part to preserve and protect the Union. And you will have made sure that Congress did that too. So watch for it. The David Horowitz Freedom Center's Judicial Accountability Project. Thank you very much.